Background: I went to a very small, religious high school, graduating class less than 20 people. It was so small it didn't even actually have a campus. It used double wides with pop-up walls as classrooms. The education was actually pretty good. The classes were small enough the teachers could give people individual attention. And parents paid a premium to make sure their children were getting a proper, religious-based education. Science classes didn't teach evolution, church on Wednesdays. Bible class was a mandatory act. The majority of the church were wonderful people, so it was a great community. Most of the time. Also, I'm not here to start a debate about whether abortion is good or bad. I believe the decision is entirely up to the person, as you never know the situation that led them to choosing. Please keep an open mind. My freshman year of high school, I made friends with a fellow autistic type who shared most of my classes. I'm gonna call her Candy. Candy and I got along swimmingly. She shared a lot of my beliefs. We could talk to each other openly. We also liked a lot of the same movies, books, artwork. So needless to say, if I had a class with her, we were practically glued together. One day, around March, I noticed Candy wasn't in school. First she was gone a few days. Then it turned into weeks, and then months. The school year ended, and I had no idea what had happened to her. This was a time before cell phones were very popular. And I didn't know her home number to keep in contact. None of the teachers knew anything. A few just told me her mother took her out of school with no further explanation. Next year, my sophomore year, in the middle of November classes, she returned. She just appeared at school early morning and started going back to classes. I didn't have any classes together with her this year, and it took a while before I cut her between classes to catch up. I noticed right away that she seemed completely different. Her bright, bubbly spirit was gone. She looked sick and very pale. She wasn't wearing makeup and she no longer took the time to do her hair and braids anymore. I asked her where she had been. What had happened to her last year? Why did she drop out of school? Why didn't you start this year in September with the rest of us? Are you sick? She didn't really seem up to talking. For the next several weeks, we only ever talked during lunch. I used the term talk loosely. She wouldn't talk about her absence. If I asked her if she had seen the latest popular movies, she would say, I don't really watch movies anymore, I'm not really that interested. Candy had become a completely different person. I decided to give her some space. One day, after winter break, I was staying late after school to finish an art project. The art room was used as a kind of after-school study hall. I heard the door open. I turned around and there was Candy. She had been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. She said between sobs, do you mind if I hang out in here while I wait for my mom to come pick me up? I immediately abandoned my work and went over to console her. She broke down almost immediately. After about 15 minutes of crying and hugs, she finally opened up to me. It turns out, the reason she had been gone is because she had gotten pregnant. Even worse, the father of her baby was her own father. Apparently, she had been the victim of sexual abuse from her biological father for several years. When she realized he had gotten her pregnant, she finally spoke up to her mother. Her mother had immediately taken her out of school and moved to another state to stay with family. They called the police. Her dad got arrested and pled guilty right away. He knew he had no argument. The DNA of the baby proved her story. Shortly after her dad's arrest, she had gone to a clinic and had an abortion. This was something that our church's religion strictly forbid. But she told me I couldn't stand the idea of possibly giving birth to an inbred baby and having him suffer. She had gone through hell and back. I was beyond shocked. I continued comforting her as best I could. A long talk, she seemed better. apologized for giving me the good shoulder when she came back. Apparently, one of the conditions of her returning to our school was she couldn't talk about the abortion. The church who ran the school would condone her choice to abort rather than adopt out her baby. She may not have been talking about it, but someone working for the school church had. Apparently, someone had told one of the mothers of a fellow student, and he had been accusing Candy of murdering her baby during class today. They had brought her to tears and she went to the principal's office to calm down. The guidance counselor had basically told her, "You should cry. You murdered an innocent life. God is going to punish you." She had decided to wait for her mother in the study hall to get away from the office staff and their accusations. Her mother picked her up shortly after our talk concluded. She hugged her daughter and tried to reassure her. She put her daughter in the car, then walked back toward the office to give those teachers a price of my mind. I wish I could have been there to tear them a new one. I must have been an epic yelling match because the next day, Candy wasn't in school. That Wednesday, during chapel, the principal made an announcement. Some of you may have heard rumors that a fellow student at the school has been engaging in some unchristian behavior and had made some poor life decisions, including the sin of abortion. Everyone knew who he was talking about. Small school in the rumor mill was powerful. He explained the church had agreed to let her return to school to help her regain her life and education. They said God would forgive her sin if she confessed and felt contrition for her decision. But she had refused to say she had done any wrong. Apparently, several parents of students had been complaining that the girl's lack of guilt over her abortion was a bad influence on the other students. They were worried she would encourage other young ladies to make ungodly choices. As a result, the principal had asked Candy to leave the school. They expelled a teen girl from school because she had aborted her inbred rape baby. And they had tried to guilt her by calling her a murderer and saying she had corrupted other girls. Several students were in an uproar over the way the school had treated Candy. I spoke to my parents that night, hoping they would back me up. And they said Candy had made the wrong choice and deserved the punishment that came with her bad choices. Several friends said their parents had been less than supportive too. I couldn't fathom the contempt they showed Candy following one of the worst possible things that could happen to a young girl. She was betrayed by her father, her community, and her faith. I never heard from Candy again. Candy, I hope, wherever you are, that you are well and know you are loved. TL5, school expelled girl for getting an abortion after being raped by her father because she would be a bad influence on other students. My first ever Reddit and it already has 2,000 upvotes. Thank you guys so very much. For those asking if I've been in contact with Candy, no. I haven't seen her since she left. I have recently passed this post on to a few former members of our student council. I'm hoping together we can try and track her down. I don't want to invade her privacy, but I do want to make sure that she's doing okay. If we find her, I will update and let everyone know.